everyone, this is Bo. Welcome to the shop. In this video, I'm tackling a personal project for our house where I'm making a custom built-in cabinet. In your mind, you probably have a picture of what a built-in cabinet is, but this one's a little bit different. This is actually a kind of a cutout in some drywall next to a fireplace, so it has some depth that you can slide a cabinet in there, and it's the same depth as a fireplace box. And the previous owner or builder had something in there that was, it worked. It was okay. It had some fixed shelves, a couple of drawers, and it had some cabinet doors that enclosed it all. That was okay. Not real functional because the cabinet doors wouldn't open past 90, so the drawers would actually hit the door when you opened them. And it's also very deep, so meaning it was very hard to store a lot of things because you couldn't reach the stuff way in the back. So I'm going to build a new one and rip the old one out, so stay tuned and see how it goes.
Alright, so with most of these large cabinet style projects, it starts with a trip to the lumber store, buying some plywood, coming home, throwing it on the ground, and start cutting it into more manageable chunks where you can more easily handle them, take them to the table saw. And here I'm cutting everything to their consistent the cabinet depth, and then here I'm cutting some of the support pieces that run left to right of the cabinet that hook all the uprights together. From here, consulting the plan, right? Gotta consult the plan from time to time, and then I'm cross-cutting all of the internal braces to make to one consistent size, and then I should go inside and test it out before finalizing everything here. To attach the brace pieces to the cabinet, I'm just using pocket holes, something really simple, easy. And here is that test piece that I'm making to ensure that all my brace sections are the right length and the cabinet will actually fit in that opening, because there is no give. It's a drywalled little cubby, so wanted to make sure it fit before I started building the real thing, which is what I'm onto here. After adding all my pocket holes, I'm going through and just kind of clamping up the individual sections, adding some glue, and then driving in some pocket screws. And you see so many pocket screws in those center sections because you can't have them overlap each other because then they hit each other. So I've made 4 or 5 holes per middle piece to get that correct. And now moving on to the face frame components, started by rough cutting everything to length, width, and then joining and milling the material here, and finally passing it through a table saw to get it all to the same width. And the easiest way to do this is just to lay it out on the cabinet itself. So you can see I'm clamping some of the vertical pieces to the sides of the cabinet, and then cutting and measuring, make sure everything lines up for the other pieces. To join the face frame together, I'm not using pocket screws, I'm using dominoes, excuse me. I don't know why I chose that at the time, but I did, and it worked out just fine. You can see I'm clamping up the face frame here.
The cabinet carcass is fully assembled over here, all glued up and ready to go. It's sitting front is facing upright and over here. To my right, I've got a face frame. This has been glued up. I just got done sanding it, and now I'm going to attach the face frame to the cabinet box. Over my last project, I really liked how maybe simple it was to align the face frame to the cabinet using biscuits. So I forgot to put the biscuit slots in the pieces before they're all assembled. So now I'm going to do it after the fact. But I think that's really going to help aligning everything. Even though it's not a very big cabinet, it just makes it less stressful when there's glue on there. So I'm going to give that a shot, cut some biscuit slots, and then we'll get the face frame glued up. So here we go. Alright, so I was just measuring for the drawers to go in this cabinet, and the rough opening is 18 1/8, but I do need to pack out that center divider in the cabinet so the drawer runners can clear the face frame. And I also have to count for the drawer slides themselves. So all that math, you subtract an inch for the drawer slides, that's 17 1/8. Subtract another just about 3/4 will get you down to 16 3/8, but I'm going to add just a little bit back and go to 16 7/16 for the width. For the heights, I have a handy little tool on my website. If you go to the useful calculations sheets on the top there, I have a tool that you can enter some information and then start playing with drawer height. So my bottom drawer is going to be 9 inches tall with a 10.5 inch tall false front. The next two are going to be 6 3/4 and 6 3/4 tall with an 8.5 inch false front. So that will look nice, get all the nice reveals and all the things. So I'm gonna start cutting some plywood and start busting out some drawers. Here we go. All right, so first thing I did was ripped all the drawers to their height on the table saw, and then I could take the sides, the drawer sides, and cut them to a known length on the miter saw. And in my case, that was 26.5 inches. Cut all the drawer sides to that length, but I would not touch the drawer front and backs yet. And that's because I added, my joinery for these drawers are going to be rabbets that will get pinned with a dowel later. But I want to cut the rabbets first so I can take my actual finished pieces that had the joints cut in them, take some measurements, right, of how much material is left on the rabbet pieces here, and subtract that from my drawer width to get the exact front and back size I need to make my drawer width to be exactly what I want it to be, right? I need it to be tight within the drawer slides. And so it's nice because you can cut your joinery and then cut your final pieces to get that perfect drawer width, which is critical for side mounted drawer slides. So this has been done. I'm now going to move on to cutting the groove for the bottom and then cutting the bottom size. Here we go. Alright, so we've got the drawer parts all cut to size, all the joints cut in them. Unfortunately, the inch monster got me, and I cut my bottoms 1 inch too short. They're supposed to extend all the way to the back of the drawer here, which really sucks that happened. So what it's going to look like is this drawer. The drawer back doesn't have a groove in it. It just was going to sit on top of the drawer bottom. And then screw the drawer bottom into the back. But that's not going to work anymore. So what I intend to do is instead of going out and buying another sheet of plywood, ripping it all down, recreating all the rabbets and stuff like that, it is a personal project, so I can have a little latitude here. I'm going to take, I got a piece of oak here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip that into a strip and glue that strip to the front of the back, so I'll glue it here, and then that'll overlap the bottom, and I'll screw the bottom into this piece of oak, which sucks that happened, but it's okay. You know, it can be a design aspect so things don't get caught in the very back corner of the drawer, you know. But no, it's too bad I screwed up, but we'll fix it and move on. So I'm moving on to sanding all the drawer internals so I can glue these drawers up. So here we go.
All right, so here we are, gluing up the drawer box. And you know, one thing I didn't mention was I do shoot these with some 23 gauge pin nails. just so I can pull them out of the clamps a little sooner, and they don't have to sit in the clamps for the full cure time of the glue. So after shooting this nails, I then move on to cutting that decorative piece in the back of the cabinet. I start by routing the large chamfer in the edge of it. And then it actually took me a while to figure out how to safely cut this on the table saw. This is like setup number 6 or so, but the best way to do this is just have that finished piece be the offcut. That chamfered edge doesn't give you a good surface to either butt up against the fence or to lay against the base of the table saw. So having it be the offcut is the most stable way to cut it and the safest way to do it. And here I'm adding a little bit of glue to both the back and the bottom surface. I think I kind of changed my mind here as I was getting into it, that I could just glue it to both since it's all plywood. Wasn't really worried about movement. It's a really thin piece, so it's got a very small amount of movement across the grain. So I just glued it all in and added some pin nails. Most of them hit true. I had to pull out a few shiners. And now I'm moving on to adding the hardwood edging to the drawer boxes. So the top of the drawer boxes are all exposed plywood right now. I need to wrap them in some hardwood so they look nice and are also more durable from things getting pulled in and out and banged against those edges. And it's just a repetitive process of cut to size, glue into place, shoot a couple pin nails, and repeat. Alright, so now we're finally getting the drawer slides and the drawer boxes installed inside the cabinet. Start by putting the drawer slides on. I've got a number of spacers there. You can see some, looks like a 1/2 inch piece of plywood and a couple 3/4 inch pieces of plywood. That's how I'll set my drawer slide. I'll then take out the 1/2 inch piece of plywood and use that to set my drawer box on, so then I can attach the slides to the drawer box at a slightly lower elevation. I just worked my way up the stack using spacers as I needed to get the right space between my drawer to drawers. And then I move on to the false fronts. So I'm cutting the stock for the false front material here. This will be the frame that goes around the panel. It'll be a 5-piece front. Cutting the grooves on the table saw that will accept that panel. And here I'm cutting the panels that go in the false front. These need a pretty healthy rabbet on them to fit within that 1/4 inch groove. So this is 1/2 inch material minus a 1/4 inch. Means the backs of these will be flush with the backs of the false front. So when you go to attach it to your drawer box, everything's a nice solid connection and you can drive your screws through your pulls, and there's no air gap there that will allow compression and maybe some wood failure, some bolts loosening over time from your hardware. And to join these, I'm using the domino again. Super fast, easy, simple, and strong. Moving on to glue up, add glue, put in a domino, add the panel, clamp it up. Check for square, important. Now I'm moving on to adding those pins or dowels in the front rabbet of all the drawers. And so I've marked out visually where I want them from a kind of equal spacing, and then drill a couple holes to I got some tape on there as my depth stop. Add some glue, pound in the dowels, and away we go. And then after the glue sets up, come back with the flush trim saw, trim it flush, and hit it with sander, knock it all down, and make sure the edge is nice and flush on the front and the side. Alright, once the false fronts come out of the clamps, I send them through the drum sander, to flush up any edges and to do some of that initial surface prep that takes a while. And I also do this on the back, get one pass there just to make sure all the edges are all flushed up. And then from there I do some more detail sanding with a random orbital and move on from there. Kind of a long clip here of me using the drum sander. Jeez. Okay, here we go. So there's a decorative profile on all the trim in our house. And so in order for this cabinet to kind of fit in with everything, I'm adding I can't remember exactly what the dimensions are, but some type of OGI bit on my router here, and I am adding that profile to the outer edge of the face frame. That face frame will sit, over top the drywall and basically look like trim when it's all installed. After some more sanding, I'm sure, moving on to spraying some finish. I'm applying polyurethane onto the drawer boxes here. Try to hit all sides of it just to give it all the protection I can. Start with the bottom, flip it over, do the outsides, and then move on to the internal sides, and then finally spray the last bit on the bottom. And with that garage door open, the lighting's not the best. Camera does some weird autocorrect stuff. And then on to primer for the false fronts and for the face frame. This primer is super thick, and it says to not thin it, so spraying it with my little HVLP here, it comes out real slow, but it does cover, and it just takes a little bit of prep work afterwards. I shouldn't say prep work, it's more post work afterwards to sand down some of the grittiness from it, but it sealed pretty well and it sanded up pretty nice. It was Inselect's something primer, can't remember off the top of my head now. And then time to move this big boy into place up on my little spraying table here. I start by priming kind of the underneath side that the corner may be a little visible when it's installed, so I spray that, and then move on to all the edges and faces.
Alright, so we're getting close to wrapping this project up. I just sprayed the first coat of stuff on things. I've got a coat of polyurethane on these dividers and the drawer boxes, and I've gotten a coat of primer on the drawer fronts as well as the face frame. So from here, I'm going to sand all this down and knock all the rough and tackiness off the drawer boxes, the dividers, the face frames, the face frame over there, and the drawer fronts. And then I'm going to spray another coat of polyurethane on the drawer boxes and the dividers, and spray 2 more coats of top coat on the drawer fronts and the face frame. From there, let it dry, put it together, and we're done. So getting close, and gotta get back to work. So here we go.
All right, so everyone, pay attention here to the end. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, it just about fits. And getting in the house. And my foot caught and I tripped and dropped the cabinet on the floor. Yeah. Luckily, I had one of my other furniture dollies inside the house, and it kind of fell on that in one of the corners. Luckily, the corner that was against the wall did hit the floor, leave a little dent in the wood floor and a little dent in the face frame, but overall, not too much damage. Could have been a lot worse, I suppose. So now we're finally into the house, and right here is nothing but sheer panic, right? Oh no, the cabinet doesn't fit in the opening. But the very external's got under the drywalls kind of the metal corner pieces, protectors for the drywall, and that's what was a little bit proud. Once I got past that, luckily she slid in. Now I had to add some shims on the bottom rear to tilt it up a bit to make it flush with the drywall, and then here I'm just drilling and adding some screws that go through the cabinet, through the drywall, into the framing. That is is basically making up this little cubby area here next to the fireplace. And then moving on to putting in drawer slides and drawers for their last time. Had to bring in some additional light here, a little bit tough to see. And it's a pretty simple process once you've already actually attached the slides once and then marked them to where they go, middle right, top left, all that stuff. Goes pretty quick. And then now I need to add the holes for the pulls in the false fronts. And so I'm just laying these out manually. Didn't make a jig or a template. It was only 6 of them to do, so it was pretty quick once I knew what measurements to shoot for. And once those holes are drilled, moving into the cabinet itself, I figured out how many playing cards total could fit between my drawer fronts and divided that by 4 number of gaps, and then used that as my playing card spacing and kind of taped them together as a bundle, so I wouldn't keep dropping them and losing count. Interesting enough, this top right drawer was actually out of square by a fair amount, and I had to do a lot of adjustment on the drawer slide, and even had to pack out the false front a little bit. On one side, like shim it essentially, so it still looked flush with the face frame, even though the drawer wasn't square. I'm not sure how 1 out of 5 drawers got out of square, but who knows, maybe it's my first one and I was feeling rushed and wasn't paying close enough attention. But this top right drawer was kind of a pain in the butt. And of course, it's the top right most visible drawer. Of course, that's how it works, but what are you gonna do? Here are some finished pictures of the cabinet with all the pulls installed and everything. Nice deep drawers, full access all the way to the back. Really made this cabinet much more functional. And these little dividers were designed specifically to hold DVDs and Blu-rays in them, keep them all somewhat organized. So I want to thank everyone who watched the video. If you could, please hit the like button if you liked it, or if you want to leave a comment of how I can make these videos better, please let me know. And if you really liked the video and want to see more of my future content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks, and have a good one.